Today we have the leader of leaks, Ken Onion. I mean, you basically came up with the entire category of assistant knives.
Yeah. Invented the assist.
Yeah. Did you have a story with that?
Oh, you wanted to go there, huh?
Yeah, I'm interested. Or was it just
this
utility?
is going to be one of the first times that I've done this.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to Knife Banter, and today we have the leader of leaks, the champion of chive. We've got the man himself, Ken Onion. Now, as you guys know, and as I know, Ken grew up in a little town in West Virginia. He was helping forge butcher knives at a young age, was a Marine in Hawaii, started making knives in Hawaii, and youngest man admitted is to the Blade Magazine Hall of Fame.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Youngest inductee into the Hall of
There
Fame.
it is. And also he has a huge catalog of iconic knives. Ken, thanks for being on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did I miss anything?
I don't know. Best looking guy in the show.
No, that's true. Okay, yep, I did. I missed
that one.
Yeah. So anyways, we're excited to have you on.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, now...
This is fun.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun. Now, you started making knives professionally back in what, 1991?
91. November 91 is when I actually started getting tutored by Stan Fujisaka in Hawaii.
Cool.
But I'd been playing around with knives for some time. I mean, I'd been making knives out of little chunks of D2 and files and things of that nature using, just primitive means.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid in West Virginia, there was an old man that lived on the hill. His name was Vernon Ott, old German guy. And he used to make butcher knives out of the old two-man crosscut saw blades. And I was, as a kid, of course, I was mesmerized by that.
Yeah, of course.
So he would heat that steel up, cold chisel his patterns out, and
awesome.
Stick them into bellows, heat it up, pound them out, do his thing. And I was fascinated. I was hooked. So, but I thought I was the only one.
Right.
I'm loving on knives, and I want to talk to people about knives. So I go over and I talk to my friends. I'm like, oh, yeah, did you see this new knife? And this is really cool. And they just kind of glaze over and wander away. And for years, I thought I was the only guy that had this, I think, knife bug, this knife gene thing.
Right. Yeah. It turns out there's a couple of us out there.
Yeah. What an awesome thing! When I found that out, I mean, this is heaven for me. I found there's a place of people that come together with knives on their brain. Why?
That was game changer.
Therapy. It's therapy. I belong here.
That's awesome.
This is my homies. This is where I should be.
So in 1991, the internet's not really a thing. So you had to go to shows, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of how you got your name out there. So what was the first show that you went to?
The Antique Arms Show in Hawaii.
Okay.
Actually, I was really afraid to go. I didn't think I was ready yet. Stan Fujisaka, he was my sensei. And I was making knives at home, I was doing my thing, and I was just happy doing it. And then my wife was like, hey, you got to start selling some of these knives. You keep spending all this money on belts and all kinds of stuff, hardware.
Right. You got to
really
return
cool
here.
handle material. And then Stan had sent me, I got a letter in the mail from Stan that he had paid for the table for me to go to the Antique Arms Show in Hawaii. And on the bottom of the ticket, he said, I'll be disappointed if you don't attend.
He did the disappointed thing.
Oh, he did that.
He did the disappointed thing.
He guilted me big time. So I went to the show and I was real hesitant to put my knives out because I was really intimidated by everybody. Tom Mayo was there, and Vince Evans was there, and Stan Fujisaka was there, and I was this kid that was just $75 knives, and that I'd worked 2 weeks on.
Yeah, right.
But was using that good stuff, the ATS-34.
Yeah.
And I think I laid out 15 knives, and I think I sold 9 of them the very first show. Stan told me, man, that's just unprecedented. That don't happen. And I kind of got to know people, and since then I've really enjoyed this.
Cool.
I've really, the industry's been so great to me. I've been so blessed.
That's awesome. And that first show, was it mostly fixed plates on the table?
It was all fixed plates.
All fixed plates.
All fixed plates.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I tried, just in my own shop, tinkering around, I've tried to make a folder, and it's not the easiest thing to do with rudimentary tools.
Yeah, Stan Fujisaka gave me a class, a one-day half class. It was till lunchtime. And then we went out to lunch, and I went home afterwards. But he just kind of laid out the basics. The cool thing about Stan is he lived really close to me, and he would answer the phone every time I called. And while I was building my first folding knife, I had tons and tons of questions. And back then, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go call this company and order some pivot screws.
Right.
And I'm gonna there's some pivots, and I'm gonna order some handle screws. We looked all over the place for this stuff. Titanium was brand new.
Right.
Nobody even really knew how to work titanium. You know, ATS-34 was the coolest stuff out there. You know, BG-42, ooh, that was the secret steel. If you could find it, it was really hard to get a hold of.
Right, right.
You know, then that was the really good stuff too. But it was an awesome time in knives. This was just a tiny little thing here.
Yeah.
A fraction of the size that it is now. So to see it grow like this, my goodness, is that satisfying.
Yeah, and you kind
and
of
the young talent.
Yeah.
The young guys coming out, holy smokes, I wish my first knives looked like theirs.
Well, you know, they had pioneers leading the way, right? They got them to the point where some of their first knives can look that way, right?
I worked a job at a refinery. I was a machinist mechanic inspector at a refinery, and every minute I wasn't working at the refinery, I was in my shop making knives, and it was just supposed to be a therapy thing.
Okay, yeah.
It was just supposed to be that thing to calm down and cool down after a hard day
the hobby,
of work.
right? Yeah, the hobby.
I didn't care if anybody bought my knives. It was just my thing. So I loved it. It's been an incredible journey. And to think it's almost, it's 27, 29 years, whatever the hell it's been. I'm lousy at math right now. But, but it's been a long journey. But it seems like it's only been a minute.
Oh, that's what happens when you do something you
love,
love,
from being one of the young bucks to one of the old guard, you know?
Yeah. We'll look at my notes real quick here. So I've heard a lot of times that when you're designing a knife, you don't think of a specific type of knife. You kind of come up with a theme or a story.
Yeah, I've told this story a million times, and I really wish more makers, more people that are into this thing would pay attention. The way our mind works is if I say, Zach, I want you to design a knife. I want you to design a 3.5-inch utility bladed folding knife. I mean, your mind processes to think, hey, what is a 3.5-inch utility folder? And you go through little snapshots of all the ones you've ever seen. Yeah. So when you sit down with a pencil and paper and you start sketching, 9 times out of 10, it's going to look like something you already seen before.
Right, because you're already in a corral.
You're already in a corral,
right?
But if you get rid of that and you teach yourself to a storyline or a theme, you pick a theme. So you just go around, like I do at night, is I wait until everybody's asleep, I turn on one light, you know, I set up all my drawing boards and stuff, and I'll pace the floor, and I'll think of a storyline. You know, it's just usually some kind of a movie thing. And then the cool thing about that is it could just be whatever subject, right? But, you know, just for the sake of conversation, you know, what about, 20th Century Fox just contacted you, and they want you to make a knife based on the first space shuttle to Mars, the manned space shuttle to Mars. The year is 2055, you know. The cool thing about that is your mind can open up and you can dream and you can think about futuristic, crazy NASA, Mars, you know, spacey stuff.
And how it would be used, what it would look like.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And so your mind is free. And the same thing with just about any other topic or theme that you want to come out with. So, I mean, I've tried to become this really broad and diverse designer. You look at my past, you see that I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of knives in that room that I've designed that you'll never know of.
Yeah.
You know, and people wouldn't even say, "Oh, that's a Ken Onion design."
Yeah, it doesn't have the look that people would expect.
Well, and it wasn't. I did it for a friend or
names
somebody out on the side, whatever,
yeah.
Right? But just to broaden your horizon like that, and I really don't think there's too many people out there that have designed more knives than me. I think maybe A.G. Russell.
Yeah, he's done a couple.
Maybe he's the guy that's beat me. Yeah.
Yeah, but you got quite a few.
But I love it, and it's a theme that works. You know,
Yeah.
right now I'm on this whole vintage flavor.
Yeah.
I like to take the old styles, the old textures, the old ideas, and then modernize them a little bit, give them a little flair, bring them back up to this generation.
Yeah, and I noticed with the field strip, right? That first field strip that you came out with CRKT, that kind of has that
home front.
Yeah, the home front,
Yeah.
that kind of vintage, military look to it.
Talking about this one right here?
Yeah, exactly. Now this one's a special one though, right?
This is the 25th anniversary CRKT, all titanium home front with the field strip on it.
Yeah.
And it's got that, what is it? Forget the steel, I never know the steel. Oh, M390.
M390.
M390, good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like this old vintage. They asked me to design a combat knife, combat folder.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to do these video game knives that I see all over the place. Or, I'm going to puke if I see another combi grind.
Right.
Sorry, guys that make combi grinds, but it is what it is. So I just figured, well, let's do a little nostalgia. I think the younger generation, my son and daughter, like vintage stuff. They think vintage is 80s, but
Right, yeah.
but I think the guys that are old just think of it as, hey, that's my era. So the cool thing is it's a broad demographic.
Right, you get the
Design
nostalgia and you get the vintage, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you got the tank tread, you've got the old weave from the duty belts, the gear that you're carrying, the bayonet lug, the old style duty knife with the fullers and the star that kind of accommodates every military in the world for the most part.
Yeah.
So I just kind of wanted to give it that kind of vintage feel, that flavor. It's been really successful. People really like it. I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's a great knife, and I personally not this one. This one's really neat. I'm gonna have to get one of these. I have one of the first ones, and I love that knife. It's a great knife. So,
Lion Steel made this out of Italy.
cool.
They did a pretty decent job.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, with that M390 blade, I love M390. That's one of my favorite blade steels personally. So,
Really?
Yeah.
Takefu
Yeah?
SG2
That's
or
the-
Super Cobalt.
That's the stuff. Huh?
Oh man,
I got to get some. I don't have any
Oh,
knives in
man.
that. I got to get caught up here. Apparently,
that's the stuff.
That's the
They're
stuff.
here, I think.
Okay.
They're usually here. It's
Okay.
very expensive steels, but that nitrogen steel. Oh my goodness. When you nitride that chromium carbide and it stacks up on that cutting edge at like a quarter micron, my goodness, the super keen edge retention, and it holds it for a really long time.
That's awesome. Well, I'm gonna have to get their.
It's exciting stuff.
their booth number
it's
from you.
spendy, but it's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, quality's always you always spend, right? You
That's
get what
exactly
you pay for,
right.
right? So, now on the note of stories, right? So mentioned before, you basically came up with the entire category of assisted knives, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Invented the assist.
Yeah, they invented the assist. And now when it comes to that, was there a story behind that? Did you have a story with that?
You want me to go there, huh?
Yeah, I'm interested. Or was it
Okay,
just
well, this
utility?
is going
'Cause
to be
it's-
one of the first times that
Yeah.
I've done this.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one story where there's a friend of mine. Her name was Strider, not to be associated with Strider. She's a biker girl.
Yeah.
Came over to the house one day and she had a Harley. She bought some parts for her and she wanted me to. So she got the wrong part. She needed me to machine a cam for her, so it would fit her bike. Stan Fujisaka had made these folders that were just super smooth, and I thought, well, how can I make a knife smoother than Stan's, right? And when she came over, and I was thinking about this, and when she came over and asked me to machine this cam, it hit me like a ton of bricks. So I went over to my bench and I grabbed the manila folder and I just started sketching. And I totally ignored her. I don't even know how long it was. I thought it was 5 or 6 minutes, probably an hour.
For
or
an
so.
hour or two.
But I'm sketching all this stuff out and stuff. And I still have that to this day. It's all a safe deposit box and stuff.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and I finished her job, sent her home, and for the next 36 hours I built 2 prototypes.
Wow.
The very next morning, after I sent the kids off to school, I went over to Stan's house. I'm like, Stan, pinky promise, non-disclosure, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, and I showed it to him, and he was shocked.
Cool.
He was like, you don't have any idea what you designed. This is cool. You need to get this thing patented. You need to do this. You need to
Yeah.
do that. I was like, I don't know how to get a patent.
Right.
What do you do to get a patent,
How's that work?
Yeah, how's that work? So I asked around to get a patent guy, and one of the private detective friends of mine said he knew a guy and happened to be a Nassau property rights specialist.
Oh, so a guy that might know a little bit about
He did
that.
the first SpeedSafe patent. It was expensive. I was disabled. I was 100%. I had a back injury from the
Right.
refinery.
Yeah.
I was broke, man.
Yeah.
I was living on workman's comp. My patent was $14,600. I went ahead and just do it. Let's do it. I believe in it.
Yeah.
And everybody thought I was crazy. That's illegal.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a switchblade knife.
Because that was a big conversation at the time, was if it was a switchblade or not a switchblade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I studied the state laws. I studied the federal laws. I studied everything. Revised statutes. I did everything. I looked at Canadian laws, European laws. I read the whole thing just to find out. And it was funny because the definition was the same. A switchblade knife is a knife where you apply manual pressure to a button, spring, or other mechanism contained in the handle.
Yep.
Well, I wasn't pushing anything in the handle. I was pushing stuff on the blade,
Yep.
which was considered a one-handed or manual knife by
Right.
definition of the law. So I felt like I was free and clear.
Yeah. Well, and as history showed, right? Like you were.
And the inspiration for the SpeedSafe was because I made a couple of switchblades. I was a gadgety guy. I built robots at Robert Bosch Corporation in Anderson, South Carolina for a while.
I actually know that. Okay.
And I was kind of a gadgety guy. I liked the gadgety stuff, so making just a plain old folder was kind of boring to me. I wanted to kind of jazz it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I had a couple of cops show up at my house and tell me about the Forfeiture Law Act of 1991, and they can seize my house and my shop and everything I own and not necessarily charge me with a crime. And I was like, okay, yes, sir, anything you say, sir. As soon as they left, that's when I started studying the laws.
Right, because you're like, I need to know this.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I kind of jumped around in that conversation, but that was the inspiration for coming up with something that was smoother than Stan's.
Cool.
It wasn't a switchblade.
Cool.
And the cam story, so.
Right, kind of.
It all kind of comes around in a circle.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. Well, yeah, because we talk about stories like that, or even stories like this 20th Century Fox and Going to Mars or whatever like that. Have you ever written down any of these short stories before?
No, they're all just at the moment.
The moment.
It's dark. I'm walking in my shop.
Right.
Anybody was to walk in on me would just think I'm a lunatic.
Right. You should record them though, and you should put them down on paper, because I bet people would buy, like Ken Onion sci-fi stories, about knives.
Man, I don't know about that. I'm not a very good writer. In my mind, I can think of all these crazy things.
Right. But you put it on paper and it just doesn't.
Yeah,
doesn't
and
come
see,
out.
I might sit there with that paper and design 10 or 11 knives under the same theme.
Yeah.
And then if I really think it's weird and I kind of don't like it, but there's something about it that I do like, then I know I'm onto something.
Yeah.
So then I'll hang them up all over the shop. And then I'll go do something, take a piss, whatever.
Yeah.
And I come back and it's like, as soon as I see that photograph, do I like it? Do I hate it? Or does it make me kind of question?
Right.
If it makes me question, I know I'm onto something.
Cool.
So that's kind of how I figure out, well, do I like it? Do I not like it?
That's a cool
Well, am I
process.
going to spend some more time refining this?
Yeah. That's a cool process. I like that.
And then it's like 10 or 12 knives later, put those knives aside, think of another storyline.
Yeah, for sure. Man. It'd be cool to walk around your shop and just see all those little sketches and whatnots.
Tripping over stuff.
I
got a path. No, my shop isn't that bad, really. When you get ready for a show, it gets a little crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine it gets a little messy then, right? Yeah, that makes sense.
We tidy up.
So, doing small shows back in '91, kind of traveling around, coming up with the SpeedSafe, and then later on, you had a huge hand, or you were the guy that started. I don't know the exact story, but you had a huge hand in ZT knives. Is that right?
Well, I was after 9/11.
Yeah.
I got woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning on 9/11 Hawaii time.
Okay.
And I turned on the news and I just started seeing, planes going. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was just crazy to me. And as a few weeks go by, I'm watching the news. I'm listening. I got my ear on this thing, and I keep hearing about, the brave firefighters and the police. And I mean no disrespect. I'm so grateful for the way the country came together during that time. But there was all this praise for these police officers and these guys that worked in the fire department. And then they would break the news and they would say, this just in, 12 soldiers critically injured in a car bomb outside of Baghdad. Back to cops and firefighters.
Right.
And I'm like, well, our military guys need to be represented here as well. These people had names. They had families, just as much as these law officers did and these fire department guys did. And I felt a deep calling. And you're going to give me chicken skins, get me all emotional, because I love my brothers and sisters in the military.
Yeah.
So I felt like I needed to get involved. And luckily, I was doing a marlin fishing tournament in the Big Island, and I met a guy that was with Paralyzed Veterans of America, and I said, sign me up. What do I need to do? And I was with Paralyzed Veterans of America for, I think, about 10 years. And they even brought me on the board of directors.
That's awesome.
But I wasn't real, I wanted to do something with all these young men that I seen, these young women. They were bringing these United Cutlery 420 high carbon surgical stainless knives. This is what these guys were carrying in the battle. This is what these guys were carrying in the field.
Not the most trustworthy tool in that situation.
I can't help, these guys getting blown up, but I can at least contribute to getting them a better product, a better knife, something that would serve their needs better. And I'm an old jarhead too, so got a little experience in the field. And so I kind of pitched the idea of coming up with a line of knives. If my son or daughter was going to go off into the war, knowing what I know about knives, what would I feel comfortable sending them away with? And I could only reference myself there, because as I was thinking about the whole image of the thing. And I brought that up to Kershaw, and they thought it was a good idea. But then not just trying to capitalize on the backs of our soldiers either. It's not just, hey, let's target them and make a lot of money.
Right.
This was a thing, okay, now what do we do to kind of contribute a percentage back to, like paralyzed veterans or wounded warriors or some other veteran cause, or even our law enforcement, wounded officers or wounded firemen or what have you. How can we contribute back to these so that we can help those guys that did get injured? And Kershaw liked the idea, of course. I wanted to call it Blade Science. They wanted to call it ZT. And the product, really solid, good, hardcore using tools.
Yeah. No, I know you're a humble man, but I've heard, and if you don't mind confirming, that a lot of your royalties from ZT actually went into support of these
All
other,
my royalties
these other
went to,
foundations.
yes. We put on a bear hunt in Alaska, and actually we went to Tyonek, Alaska, which is native land. No white man had been on that property since 1919.
Whoa.
But the bear population had exploded.
Yeah.
The natives there lived off of caribou and moose, but the bear population exploded so much that they were killing off all the caribou and the moose, and they were going to bring in these helicopters and just kill all these bears.
Oh, wow.
And we don't want to do that. And I'm a better environmentalist. I don't want to see anything get killed or maimed or harmed if it's not necessary, but I understood the situation.
Right, yeah, you got to have that balance.
So we were like, well, hey, what if we bring a bunch of veterans in here and we stay at your cabin in your lodge right here in Tyonek, and we give you XYZ dollars for every bear that we kill? That's going to help your moose population, your caribou population to improve. And they were all for it. So we started doing that, and it was great. And we'd get these groups 3 or 4 weeks a year. We'd have these groups of 10 wounded or paralyzed soldiers come out, and we'd take them bear hunting. But it was more about the camaraderie. Most of these guys hadn't really interacted with other servicemen since their injuries.
Right.
It was more about, a lot of these guys were hugely dependent on large volumes of painkillers and other medications, and the PTSD issues were really wicked. Young men, I mean, I look at them like sons. Strong, brave young guys, but you could tell that they were hurting inside.
Right.
And I really wanted to get a lot of Vietnam veteran guys, or guys that have been there, done that, lived through it, what they've learned, how they can help to reach out and help these young men. And one of the things that we found out, and women, by the way.
Yeah.
And one of the things we found out is the best way to heal is to get involved and say, hey, your job isn't done yet. Right? You got other brothers and sisters coming back every day. Get involved, reach your hand out, give them a soft landing back home, help them. And by helping them, you're going to help heal yourself.
You too. Yeah.
And I've got a lot of healing from that as well.
That's wonderful.
So we continue to do that. I've got a different nonprofit now. I stepped away from Paralyzed Veterans of America, great organization. But myself and 4 of my friends started an organization called Alaska's Healing Hearts. It's a small operation. Nobody really knows about it because all of our monies goes directly to veterans, 100% voluntary.
That's awesome.
That's
great.
The only things that we do pay for is an accountant and the occasional thank you plaque.
Right.
And we've got open books to show that.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
So.
Yeah, it's important work. We here at Blade HQ, we pair with a Continue Mission. They're based out of Utah, and it's the same idea. They're given that space for veterans to meet up and be together. So that's wonderful.
We've never had war that's lasted this long. So have these guys doing 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 tours of duty. My goodness. I mean, what kind of turmoil is in their brain? When they come back, how do they come back to civilian life?
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing for sure.
We're doing good work. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
I never did it for accolades.
Yeah,
it was necessary.
Yeah, it was a necessary thing. Well, like you said, it
and
was
I've
a
got more
calling,
healing out
right?
of it than anything I could have possibly done. And it's just, I was that guy that was saying, hey, let me help. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to try my best.
Right. That's great. Well, kind of moving back into knives a little bit. You probably get asked this a lot, but I've actually never been able to find anything about it, just in my searching on the internet about you. What's your favorite Ken Onion design? Like of your knives? Do you have a favorite? It's probably a hard question, but
that's tough. At the moment, I got so many love affairs with so many of them. They're my babies.
Yeah.
I commiserate over them.
Well, I know your
little details.
Yeah, I know your process is you kind of get it to a point, and then you just pick those 2 little things that you just kind of work, right?
Right. I think for a long time, I think the bump was one of my favorites because it was so unusual, it was so weird. The stud lock was really strong. It was one of those hack and slash knives. There was no choil to hang up on anything. It was a true defensive knife, but it was also incredibly utilitarian. But it was weird for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so many guys would complain because they had flat stones and they couldn't sharpen a knife. Get an oval stone.
Right.
It's not that hard.
There's the answer.
Yeah, $12. Yeah.
Done.
It's gonna put you back, buddy. I'm really loving the home front.
Yeah, the home fronts.
I love the swindle. I used to call it swagger.
Okay.
But I like that one a lot. I love doing the old school stuff with a little modern flavor.
Yeah.
I think that's where my heart is right now.
Yeah, great. And so then I guess kind of the flip side of that coin, and you mentioned a little bit of this, new designers and stuff. What are some of the designers or some knives that you got your eye on right now? Guys that
I think
are
one
kind
of the most
impressing you,
brilliant guys that I've seen in a long time is this Marson's guy. I don't know him, never really met him, but I'm following his stuff on Instagram. He's incredible. This young guy named Snex is what he goes by on Instagram. Don't know him personally. He's brilliant. Andre de Villers is doing some amazing stuff.
Really cool stuff.
His folding design is so versatile. You can put almost any blade on that thing, and it's incredible. It's great. And the other things I don't even know how he does it. He's got this sculpted dragon-looking thing that he's doing now that's really cool.
Oh, I haven't seen that one yet.
He's doing it in production.
Huh?
It's
Interesting.
like, I have no idea. It can't be all hand carved, but
Yeah.
he's got a great eye.
Yeah.
TJ's got a lot of potential, young kid.
TJ Schwartz.
Schwartz, yes.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of potential. He's very artistic. He's very open-minded. And give me that name.
Oh, Elijah Isham?
Him.
Yeah.
That guy. His mind is so free. To be in that place, to be in that space with your mind with no limitations and just allow your mind to wander like I see his doing. I think when he just refines himself a little bit more and harnesses some of that just a little bit more, there's no telling where that kid can go.
It's cool.
He's fantastic.
So I've sat down with Elijah, and me and him have talked. We did an interview with him last year. And
incredibly intelligent.
Yeah. And when you say themes, I think that's how he works, right? Like he's really inspired by MC Geiger and the book Dune. He's got a couple designs based off of that, and I think that he kind of works how you were talking about. I think he picks a theme or an idea.
I love that.
And he runs with it, and then the knife just kind of forms from the theme and idea.
I'm a big Jigger fan.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's one of his big influences. He said. So yeah.
I love old architecture too, with the gargoyles and the old structures, the old buildings.
Yeah.
Oh, those are fantastic. Just to put that kind of art and that kind of flavor in the structure. It was so labor intensive. People live their whole entire lives building some of these things.
Yeah. Well,
and
especially
the results are just gorgeous.
Yeah, you look at that old Gothic architecture, and that's
I love
exactly
the
what
Gothic
it is.
architecture.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's great.
I have a thing for texture. I love texture.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, and Gothic architecture is all about texture, right? Everything's texture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so in knives, I like the texture. A knife has to feel right for me. I'm a guy that when I'm watching TV at night, I've always got a pocket knife in my hand, and it's like a feely toy, right? It's like a little thing I got to roll around. If it doesn't have the right feel, if it doesn't have the right texture, doesn't have the right roll for me, then it's gone until I
find the right one.
Exactly.
Well, luckily you know a guy who makes knives.
It might not be the one I use every day, but it may be the one that I fidget with all the time.
No, it's the TV knife.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Ken, you've done a ton for the industry. Obviously you supported guys on the come up. You support veterans, all these other things. A lot of great advice here. But if for the young guys coming up, for a guy who's sitting in his room right now watching this on YouTube, is thinking about getting into knives, what would you give them? What suggestions would you give them?
If you see everybody going right, go left. Don't follow the trend. Create the trend. Open your mind. Expand your mind. Learn all the rules, break every single one of them.
Great advice.
That's the only thing I can say. Don't put limitations on yourself. And most of all, be positive. Focus on only positive things. Don't allow negativity in your world. Don't allow the thought of failure in your mind. If you're going forward with authority and with enthusiasm and with a passion, you're going to succeed. Any stepping stone is merely that, a stepping stone, something to conquer, overcome, discard, and move on. Maybe there's a lesson there. Think about that lesson, what that lesson might be. Learn that lesson, grow from that lesson, stay forward, move on, be positive.
There you go. Well, there you have it, guys. Straight from the man's mouth.
This has been fun.
Yeah. Thanks
We
so much for
didn't
being
do all
on.
the jolly though. What the hell? Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next video.